Found in this series on the Kingdom of the Continuance, I mentioned this break in the Kingdom of the Continuance, a break in the eternal sequence of events, immeasurable, and where created time came into play to express this correcting of iniquity found in this angelic being called Lucifer. Now in created time, it's expressed as 7,000 years, yet in the eternal realms, understanding it might have been expressed as 7 days, using what's written. A day with the Lord is or could be likened to 1,000 years. 2 Peter chapter 3 verse 8 says that. This expression was the best way to express this to those called in created temporal time, knowing only past, present, and future. What really occurred in that eternal realm cannot be measured by the fallen carnal mind. In other words, it was over before he even began this finding of iniquity in Lucifer. What occurs in that realm requires this eternal mind in our human spirit, and empowered by the Spirit of God to grasp it. Now this matter of this gospel mentioned in our title, translated means the good news. This good news is everlasting, only expressed in created time, and expressed in 1 Corinthians chapter 15 verses 1 and 2, which we call the gospel. Yet many never make the connection to this everlasting gospel mentioned in Revelation 14:6. And I saw another angel fly in the midst of heaven, having the everlasting gospel, to preach unto them that dwell on the earth, and to every nation, kindred, tongue, and people. Here's an excerpt from another writing video that put out a touch upon this. It's called Place Carded. Comes from the Spanish Greek translation by Kenneth Weiss. Galatians chapter 3 verse 1. O unreflecting Galatians, who bewitched you, before whose eyes Jesus Christ was place carded publicly as the crucified one. Now in the Greek, this word place carded could be seen as posted as on a billboard or wall. Comes out First Peter chapter 1 verse 20. Who verily was foreordained before the foundations of the world, but was manifested, place carded, in these last times of days, like a billboard flashing, when Jesus said it was finished on the cross. Expression of eternal fact in created time. Now you gotta hear this. The eternal gospel is found in the totality of the Bible, manifested in the fullness of time by Jesus on the cross saying what was finished before the foundations of the world, revealed in created time for all eyes to see. Now here's another statement I want you to reflect on. It's going to be coming out in this USB recordings I made the other night. Here's this statement. Subsequent battles, skirmishes in the eternal realm occurred, then seen and expressed in the created time's battles, misunderstood with our view of the past, present, and future. How can we express it? The eternal past, the eternal future? You can't say that. The eternal has no beginning days, no end days, was, there never shall be. So we can't express the eternal past as the eternal future. The best way we can express it, though limited, is with us using what is called the eternal now. Now, meaning not our way. N-O-W, not our way of thinking. Now, how future videos I will be getting into this, revealing how this eternal battle had already been won, fought and won, with its consummation, its final battle, to be played out in the created time when Lucifer and 1/3 of the fallen angelic host are cast down to earth. So we'll be watching that. That would be the final battle. What played out in heaven during what we call 7,000 years didn't occur. But we can't measure it. The flash in the mind of God. Lucifer was found, iniquity in him. He was dealt with on the spot. But we see it drug out from what we see expressed in time as 7,000 years. With the final battle being expressed in this material world is played out here. But we're just down here on this earth, there's things up there occurring. We don't realize what's going on. We see it expressed in created time. That's going to be coming out in that video. So having given this to you all, what I just said, now I can share excerpts from my recordings I made the other night of a conversation I had with our Father. See if you can follow what was shared to me.
Many of us demand that we teach text in context. It gets beyond just a book or the Old Testament or New Testament. It's the totality of all that's ever been written, spoke, or thought in the context of the living Word. It takes all of these books, Old and New Testament. He called it the everlasting gospel. If you just looked at the gospel that was preached and taught in time, space, and material world, and don't get into this everlasting gospel that comes up out of the eternal realms, and that word eternal being defined as no beginning days nor end of days, was, is, and ever shall be. And this experience in this life being just a break in that continuance to express something, one of the many sequels of events in the eternal realm, and God's desire to express who we were and who He is, and that realm is, the Father and Mother of us all, express it into a material creative world. You get into the word beginning. In the beginning, the word there in the Hebrew, Rashi, in the mind of God. And that mind, being unexpressed, says that there be light. And that light and knowledge was to be expressed in the world as Jesus had prayed, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. That was offered to the Jewish people in the fullness of time, and got postponed. And the reason it was postponed, because God wanted to include not only the Jew, but also the Gentile. So this is the time of the Gentiles. See the time of the Jews, the time of the Gentiles, and in the light of the totality, keeping all these texts in the context of the everlasting gospel. I guess that's how you express it. It's mentioned in Scripture how God blinded them in part. And people get upset that God blinded them. It had the eternal purposes. He was yet deal with the Jewish nation that was used to introduce all this. He has to blind them temporarily, in part, because the early writers of the New Testament were Jewish. So the large part was blinded so that God could introduce this eternal gospel that included not only the Jew but the Gentiles. They couldn't see it. They were blindsided. But God did it on purpose And you get into free will man and Calvin and his ideas. God, the will of God overrides any will of man, their thoughts and ideas, all that. And we get confused and make God into some ogre, and he's trying to manipulate people. No, he has to stay committed to the eternal gospel, to the disbelief and misunderstanding of those that see God working. His will be done. Not my will, thy will be done. The Son of God knew that. He learned obedience by the things he would suffer. You know, let this cup pass, nevertheless, not my will, thy will be done. I mean, he finished it. Finished his task. Full manifestation of the mystery. God, if he ever stopped, it never would have been revealed. And once it was revealed, the devil takes what was hidden and twists it to the cult world, to self-willed religious individuals that don't go and see the totality in context of what? Just a book? No, in context of the everlasting gospel. You got to speak from that. In the context of the everlasting gospel. I like that. That's a beautiful thought. Context of the everlasting gospel. So with all this commanding to keep text in context, don't pull out context, you can prove about anything you want. But they've done it without even knowing they've done it. They pick it up out of the context of a single book or comparing New Testament to Old Testament. It goes even deeper, much deeper, to the everlasting gospel. And that sequence of events in the eternal realm, that's the best way you can express it, you know? Sequence of events, I mentioned it earlier. Dr. Francis Schaeffer expressed it. Now, through the mind of Christ, a mystery to him, yet he expressed it. And whether he knew about this thing of the mystery, I imagine he probably did. He said, you got to get into this matter at the beginning. He said it's got to be expressed this way. In the beginning, before the beginning, in the mind of God. In that sequence of events in the eternal realm, that's the everlasting gospel being expressed in material created world. To have a beginning of created time and the end of created time. Then we get out of this, get back to the whole series of the kingdom of the continuance. It's a breaking continuance. So immeasurable you can't measure it. In the sequence of the eternal realm that has no beginning or end, it was. Our minds think past, present, future, but God's mind thinks of eternal, the eternal fall. I say like a circle, right? Has a beginning, a full, it come full, what they call come full circle. But that full circle isn't like a dog chases its tail, but it is like an upward spiral. You go full circle and all of a sudden, it doesn't come back to what we call the beginning. Beginning of a circle, all the way to the end of a circle, but it springs up and increases, springs up and increases, upward spiral, upward spiral. That's why we expand and increase with God in the mind of the Spirit. But this other mind, if you follow the mind of Christ, it's a repeating, going over the same old ground over and over again. Circle and start over again, circle, start over again. And if you don't see that, it's all that circle becomes a downward spiral, becoming less and less and less. You end up mindless. Then you get in the matter of the mind. God. You get there as a reprobate mind, you don't want that to happen. It's a downward spiral. He called eternal decreasing. There's no end to the decreasing. Something eternal never ends. It only gets cut off from its original intent. God, as I was saying, only grace He can show someone that rejects who He is and who they were. You who reject it. The only mercy and grace He can show you is to erase your mind completely. Here's this eternal body without a mind. And here's these devils and demons who left their original habitat in the state and were disembodied. They're just spirits. They have no body. That's why the demons wouldn't desire to possess a body. Temporary bodies, this bioless body. They're going to get these eternal bodies and possess them. But thank God, the only grace God can show you. It's a erase your mind, you will know what happens. But you're eternal. They're eternal. How you throw a body into the fires of hell they get into without getting into that? It doesn't burn up. It's eternal. Eternal body can't burn up. Can't be annihilated, you know. So these people think that death is annihilation. No. How could it be annihilation when our idea of death is done away with? It says the death and the grave are thrown to the lake of fire. Eternal run. No more death. It's called the second death, but don't take the definition of death and put it to the second death. Second death is eternal. There's no coming back. Only getting, I guess you say, worse and worse and worse forever. Learning but never come to knowledge of the truth. And it's a grace. Because you had a minute when you were in this holding house of hell, you haven't remembered of who you were and what life is all about. But when you turn after judgment, the white throne judgment, and its downward spiral beyond that, erases the mind. That's the only grace you can show you. Whereas in the upward spiral, that mind's increased. You expand and increase with the mind of God. You increase with God. On this matter of increasing or decreasing, you can increase in the wisdom and knowledge of God, or you can decrease. It will take forever to increase with the increase of God. It goes on forever. But you continue upward, the upward spiral. Now, if you don't want this, it'll take forever to decrease from this knowledge. It's hidden in this mind of Christ in your spirit. This gives you some idea of the depths of this eternal mind. Either an upward spiral to increase with God, in that place prepared by Him, eternal place prepared eternally, and no beginning days or end of days that was, is, and ever shall be, or you can go with a downward spiral. You'll have to decrease, and that same decrease will be eternal. My God. If that doesn't stir your interest, I don't know what will. It's got my attention. I'm sitting up here 3 and 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. Couldn't go to sleep. he had me get on this USB recorder, and I'm going through it. And he says, go to your mysteries. Well, I had 6 recordings on this mystery. I said, well, what about that? He said, just start listening to it. So I did. And he said, take notes. I started taking notes. My God. I saw more. I could add another 6 more recordings to that. There's no end to it. That's what he said. That's eternal. That's eternal mind of your spirit. You got to begin somewhere. Begin now. Or you get a decrease that'll go on forever. My God, I don't want that. I want to increase with the increase of God. From one degree of glory to another degree of glory, from faith to faith to faith to faith, getting more substance of things they're all hoping for, and getting more and more evidence of things not seen. And losing this steadfast, long gaze upon things seen, and gain this interest to get a continual, steadfast, longing gaze upon those things unseen, which are eternal. Sure, those that are not eternal is forever as well. Which one do you want? I set before you life or death. It's called the second death. The first death is annihilation, because it leads to the second death, which is eternal, and a constant decreasing. Continuing that mystery, this decreasing is the only mercy he could show you. Because if you went to hell, ended up in Gehenna, the eternal abode that was prepared for the devil and his angels, not for humanity. The only mercy he could show you was to decrease that mind, because that would be more torment than you could ever handle. It's enough to go to Gehenna, but to go there with this mind, knowing what you missed, he has to decrease that mind. How his love for you. Now you have some idea what the psalmist meant. If I make my bed in hell, thou art there. His love taking a total different direction. So his eternal offspring would not have to suffer. Because of fall for the stupid lie, you won't suffer. Somewhere in the near eternal future, if you could call it that, it would decrease. Oh God, it doesn't have to happen. You can increase. It says in scriptures that the things will be forgotten, never called to mind again. With the increase of God, the cares and fears of this life and the pains and suffering you had to go, the road to the kingdom is pains and tribulations, but it got you out of here. And vice versa. You'll be forgotten, never called to mind again. But you'll live forever. Is that what you wanted? You doing God in your life? He said, for you to not have me in your life eternally, out of my love for you, I would decrease your mind, and you'll never recall me again. But for those in an upper spot, this temporary experience you had to go through is complete, and you go on forever, increasing with the increase of God. Now you can understand what the songwriter meant when he said, let sorrow do its work, send grief and pain, sweet are thy messengers, sweet their refrain, when we can sing together, more love of Christ today. Increase. By the grace of God, I beg you, don't allow him, this devil, to have the Father take his offspring and decrease that mind. Now his love for you, he offers to increase with the increase of God and continue in the kingdom of the continuance forever. God bless.